When you stand in front of the Van Gogh painting, it feels like the canvas is breathing. Joyous yellows, swirling blues, fields and flowers that seem to love being alive. And that's the paradox, because the man behind those bright, hard-on-his-sleeve paintings spent most of his 37 years walking through some of the darkest inner weather a human being can face. Vincent van Gogh, the artist who painted with his whole heart, lived much of his adult life with a crushing mental illness and depression. In July 1890, he died from a gunshot wound that most historians believe he inflicted on himself. Those last weeks he was staying in a quiet village north of Paris named Auvers. There he painted a strange tangled image of 3 trunks and roots, a doubled-length canvas that looks like the nature exploding out of earth. Today we call it Tree Roots, and many scholars consider it probably the final painting he ever worked on. Shortly after finishing works like this, Vincent walked into the fields with a gun. He shot himself in the chest, back to his inn wounded, and somehow staggered. 2 days later, on July 29, he died in his small room with his younger brother Theo at his side. Family accounts recall him saying, "In those last hours, the sadness will last forever." So how did a man who saw life with such sadness that would last forever create paintings that look like a joy made visible? To answer that, we have to rewind. Vincent was born in 1853 in the Dutch village of the Untold, the son of a Protestant minister. As a young man, he tried nearly everything except being an artist. He worked for art dealers, taught school, and eventually became a lay preacher among coal miners in the Borinage, a harsh mining region in Belgium. There he chose to live almost as poor as the miners themselves, sleeping in the bare rooms, visiting the sick, giving away his possessions. His faith was so intense and idealistic, he wanted to live like Christ among the poor. Church authorities, however, thought he had gone too far and refused to renew his position. Vincent was devastated. Out of that failure, a new calling slowly appeared. Around the age of 27, encouraged by Theo, Vincent decided he would become an artist. From the beginning, he wasn't trying to paint pretty postcards. He wanted to show the truth of ordinary everyday life, the beauty in rough faces, muddy fields, cramped little rooms. In one letter to Theo, he urged him to find things beautiful as much as you can. Most people find too little beautiful. In another, he admitted that even when his own life felt like a mess, he still saw paintings in the poorest little house, in the filthiest corner. That's Vincent's core belief. If you keep your eyes and heart open every day, life is full of beauty, and art is the way to show it. In the mid-1880s, in the village of Nuenen, he painted peasants eating the dinner under a single lamp, those famous potato eaters. He deliberately gave them coarse faces and bony hands. He wanted you to feel the hard, honest work in their lives, not some romantic fantasy. Then came Paris and color. Surrounded by impressionists and other avant-garde painters, Vincent's palette exploded from dark browns into electric blues, burning oranges, thick sculpted brushstrokes. He began to use color not just to copy what he saw, but to express how it felt. In 1888, he moved to Arles in the south of France, chasing stronger light and simpler life. He rented the now famous Yellow House and dreamed of turning it into the studio of the South, a home where his artists would live and work together. To decorate it, especially the guest room, he painted his blazing sunflowers, vases bursting with yellow blooms and yellow backgrounds, to welcome his friend, the painter Paul Gauguin. For a brief moment, the dream seemed to be working. Gauguin arrived, they painted together, they argued about everything. The colors in Vincent's work became bolder, the brushstroke more intense, but the tension between them grew. In late December 1888, after a furious argument, Vincent suffered a severe mental crisis. That night he cut off most of his left ear and brought it, wrapped to a woman at a nearby brothel. Well, according to some resources, the woman to whom he brought an ear was a prostitute, and the reason why he cut a part of his ear was because they had such an intense fight with Gogh that Vincent just stand the unfairness of the moment, and just to prove his point, feeling that he just cut off his ear. The next day he woke up in the hospital with only fragments of a memory. Gogh left Arles. The townspeople, frightened and scandalized, signed a petition to have Vincent removed. And that's when, according to some art historical resources, he was sent to hospital, for mental illnesses. The dream of the Yellow House was over. But again, he turned pain into pictures. Self-portraits with a bandaged ear, the hospital ward, the empty chair in his simple room, ordinary objects charged with emotion. Shaken and afraid of himself, Vincent made a drastic but clear choice. He asked to be admitted to a psychiatric hospital. In May 1889, he voluntarily entered the asylum of Saint-Paul de Massal in Saint-Remy. He spent about a year there. During severe attacks, he couldn't work at all, but in the calmer periods, he painted obsessively, roughly 150 paintings in that single year. Can you imagine? It's about the painting every 2 days. So olive trees, irises, the garden, the enclosed wheat field outside the window, even the long haunted corridor of the building itself. From his east-facing bedroom window, he could see that the landscape and the morning star. Out of that view and out of his own inner turbulence, he painted the Starry Night. In June 1889, a sky exploding with swirling blues and yellows, a dark cypress like a flame, a little village sleeping below. It isn't just a night scene, it's a feeling, fear, wonder, faith, and loneliness all tangled together. Through all of this, Theo was his lifeline. Theo wasn't only sending money so Vincent could buy paint instead of starving, he was sending belief. Without that constant emotional and financial support, Vincent might never even have become the artist we know today. Not even talking about making it to 37. Their letters, hundreds of them, are full of Vincent doubts, spiritual questions, wild plans, and stubborn hope that his work might someday matter. In May 1890, thinking he was improving, Vincent left the asylum and moved to Auvergne, closer to Theo, and under the care of Dr. Paul Gachet. In about 70 days, he painted around 70 canvases, wheat fields under stormy skies, thatched cottages, tangled roots, quiet gardens. It was all last frantic burst of creativity. By then he had sold almost none of his work. The only painting we know by name that was sold through a public exhibition during his lifetime was The Red Vineyard, bought in Brussels in early 1890s. He died convicted he had failed. And yet, throughout all those years of rejection and illness, he kept returning to the same idea in his letters. If a voice inside you says, "You're not a painter," then your answer is to paint. Work anyway, keep going. For him, as long as you were alive, as long as you could look at the world and pick up a brush, there was still something worth doing. He believed that even in poor houses and fleeting corners, there were paintings waiting to be seen. That as long as you could see the beauty, you could still create. And as long as you could still create, some part of you was stronger than the darkness.